And it was at that point that they were being told, your mom is dead. So you would understand the conflict. Joy at finding each other, mingled with the sorrow of losing mommy that they had not seen for 14 years. The question would arise, why they didn't see mommy? They did not even know, because when they were younger, they were given to other people to keep. And they had lost track with mom. It was a pathetic situation. And when I saw how those children embraced each other and cried on each other's shoulder for joy at being together again, mingled with the sorrow now of having lost mom, I was the fourth sibling. So I can understand that their children out there hurting. And if we could really get around to being there for them, getting to know of this pain, where it is, that is what Christmas should be like. Looking for the unfortunate person who would just want a raft on the billowy sea of life. That is Christmas.
So you was now let's. So this is a thing that we should. If we now we talked earlier on about how we try to get the things for Christmas for ourselves. Try because everyone else is getting this wrong. We try to get the house painted, the curtains, the type of food stuff, the drinking, the alcohol, and so. Now, in what you said, if we focus more on the unfortunate ones in our midst, we will get a better joy out of Christmas.
My idea is that Christmas is every day. Christmas should be every day. Not one particular day or a particular week you call the Yuletide season, and the boundaries of the Yuletide season, which may only be just about 12 days. Outside of that, you're in the wilderness. That oasis should be spread across time. Not just in one isolated spot in the desert.
I do believe that there's a point really for making Christmas every day, and it's simple. The Queen has 2 birthdays a year. There's her actual date of birth, and then there's the day when the state exactly. Now, the thing about it is, what makes Jesus unique is that no one actually knows the day when he was born.
Yeah.
So since we don't know the actual day when he was born, the reality is any day could be his birthday.
Exactly.
Today could be his birthday for all we know. It could be the 1st of January. It could be the 6th of February. It could be 3rd of March.
And if we do it like that, then...
Exactly. You see, because since his birthday could be
on his birthday.
Exactly. Therefore, when we go out then and spread some joy, every day that we bring a little laughter, a little joy, so that merrymaking, because one of the things that makes life grand and great is when we as adults, when we leave childhood and we go into adulthood, when the bad days come or the not so good days arrive, when we can revert to those good days that we had as children, as younger persons, when we remember the good times, we remember the time when Daddy made us laugh, Mommy made this pie, and it was so fantastic. But guess what? It got burnt. Or as she took it out of the oven, she tripped and it fell, and it splattered all over the place, and everybody laughed. And we picked up the pieces, and it was a great time. We had to change the recipe. These are those moments that will take us into adulthood, and when those times come that we would rather forget, we can survive them and come out on the other side with a smile on our face, a zip in our step, and we can face tomorrow. In fact, we can face today.
But do you know, Wally, that there is a child in each one of us, despite your age, chronological.
Of course it is.
Despite your chronological age, there is a child in you.
And the longer we keep it there, is the better our life will be.
Of course.
Yeah, of course, because you talked about how that child, you the situation when you say a child hugged you and tell you you're the best dad or the bestest dad, in their own way. And you talk about how the joy you feel to see that child happy, the home that child comes from, and know that child is happy. And that, it brings out that inner joy inside of you. I don't think any amount of money, could really bring that sort of joy or feeling that you get from when you do these Christmas things for children. We light our stove, we complain the food burn and all this. Sometimes we leave but there are homes where people can't even light a stove. True.
You can't even light a stove. And there's some people who don't have a stove to light. And some who the stove is there, but they're unable to light it.
And many of us house at this time around the year, we are going to be filled with all kinds of things to eat and drink. In fact, more than we could eat and drink.
Yeah.
And there are many people among us in our own midst. Maybe it could be the very next door neighbor who don't even want to have so much of pride, don't want anybody to know her business. Might not come and tell you that this is the situation, because probably dad would have get retrenched for the last 9 months. The bills would have been piling up. But because dad was such a proud person, do all these things, his pride is threatened. So that he could come to John and say, John, it is Christmas and, I could weather this storm, but for the kids I would, don't know if you could assist me with a little sack of flour or something like that. But because of that pride, is now he may not want to even come and do that. And then you see him outside and give him a nice smile, a good wave, because he don't know what's going on in his home. You would have known. He probably would have seen him home. You might not even know that he would have get retrenched. And so many people like that in our midst. But we are having this joy. And if we take the time to really consider and think about these things, Christmas will have a lot more meaning for us.
But do you realize that we contribute to many of these things? Because, for instance, the reason why this gentleman's pride is such that he wouldn't tell you is because during the time he's been alive, he has come to realize that the best place for him, the safest place for him, is to keep his business to himself. Because when he tell you that he didn't have, before you know it, the whole world knows it.
Yes.
I'll tell you one thing, George. I can add to that because, Wallace and I would have had situations like those in our career.
That's right.
I know people who were having welfare grants. And they refuse to go for it because when people see them at these particular agencies, they know what you're there for.
That's right.
And they were too proud to let people think that they were there receiving alms from the government. And they would rather starve than go
for the grant.
Stand in a queue, and you know that person is going for a welfare grant.
And John, you see, this is something that we must not really do. You see, why they say, don't look down on a man unless you intend to pick him up.
That's right.
I may be working for a job that I can afford a lot of things that my neighbor can't afford. A new car every 2 years, pay the bills, come for them. We must not feel that we is a cut above the rest. Just because our situation is more fortunate than the neighbor. So and when we do these things, sometimes willfully, consciously or unconsciously we do these things, we plant these kinds of seeds where we ourselves could find ourselves in some unfortunate situation. One day, we didn't save any money when things were going good. Now we find ourselves we have to depend on a welfare check. But because of the life that we lived before, we're too proud now for anybody to see us going for that welfare check because the life we would have lived before, our attitude, or even the neighbor's attitude, your friend's attitude, feel that he was always so big, and they're not going for it. So in a way, we contribute to our own demise at times.
Of course, we do. I mean, we know that there are people who will really mock at you because they're not going through the same thing that you are going.
That we're going through. But you know something? If we go back to those days when, as Barbadians, when I was a kid growing up, where my parents, my grandparents, they shared with others around them and others. For instance, when you went to town or something like that, and you stayed longer than you anticipated, when you got home, the neighbor had cooked and a share of food was left for you.
That's
now,
correct.
In that environment where when the same thing happened, you see, whether you were working or not, nobody knew, because since we always shared, it was not unusual for you to be receiving gifts from other people. For instance, somebody had a breadfruit, but they couldn't use the whole breadfruit. They gave you half.
That's correct.
Even when your parents would have baked a bread, she would send one over.
That's right.
Cake.
You know, these are the kind of things. Well, that kind of environment would negate some of the things that we see happening today.
Of course, you see, there was that interdependency on each other, and we felt good to be our brother's keeper. I remember, I grew up in the country area in Barbados as a youngster, and I know that there were people who would pass, because my mom, she was a housewife, she was at home, my dad, he went out to work, but there were other people who would be going out to work, and I remember that they would pass, and they would say to my mom, if the rain should begin to fall,
take up the clothes.
You will find the key under such and such a rock.
That's right.
Go inside and close the windows for me.
Close the windows.
Or if the sun is real bright, go and sprinkle the clothes, because laundering was not in any posh place with a washing machine.
That's right. You hang the clothes,
it
on the rock.
It was elbow grease. You rubbed it. Right. You cleaned it with your elbow. You see, human strength. And then you would spread those clothes out, and people would tell you must think. And then there was the animal husbandry, the sheep, the goat,
the cows.
Take water for them for me, and that thing happened. You know, when people say today the good old days, I can understand what they're talking about.
Because the good old days.
Yes, when people were there for each other, that, in my opinion, is what the Christmas environment
is about.
And John, I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because let me tell you something about the Christmas now. What you have is people decorating their house, put down the nice carpet and the new furniture, and they want nobody in their house to dirty their house.
That's right.
Even that time that people go so on as they should. I remember we lived in a little board house when I was a child, and each time somebody come, I used to have to go behind the door, take out the polish. The polish used to be strip the floor and then polish it back. But today you find people saying, look, I don't want anybody in my house, I don't want to come and dirty my carpet or sit there. And all of this, you find that the Christmas itself is more about how nice your house look and how look it is, and it's not about
it is selfish and boasting. I am better than you. I am impressing you, and you're not. Yeah. You heard my text for this sermon that we've got tonight. People spend money they don't have to purchase things they don't need
or want
to impress people that they don't like.
Not care about.
You see what I mean?
That's correct.
But I must show you that I am better than you. And like you said, George, when you come to the door, take off your shoes. Don't dirty my carpet.
That's right.
Take off your shoes, you mean don't come in here. Go through the back door.
Yes.
Right.
Don't disturb the place.
That's right.
This is a showpiece for today.
That's
Christmas.
right.
Christmas. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yes. But that is what it come to in 2012 and before that. This is what Christmas is today. It don't have that spirit.
let me read an email. We've got Tara.
So Cyrus, remember your last point after you take it up when you
Yes. Tara, thank you very much for your email. And Tara says that Christmas is no longer happy and joyous.
Mm-hmm.
It has become a time where people overdrink and spend the word wonderful is a psychological simulation. Females dress in their best to look better than their peers rather than enforce self-beauty. The value of gifts is materialized instead of sentimentalized.
Mm-hmm.
Why should you pour kindness? Oh yeah. Why should you portray kindness only at Christmas? That is the situation. And they tell me that Christmas is the time of giving. So anytime outside of Christmas is the time of taking.
Receiving. No. But no, you know, when we look back at it, for those of us who went overseas, we arrived in places like England and Canada, and especially since it is cold, and if you lived in places like Alberta and Peace River, where minus 25 or minus 30, minus 40 and minus 50 is like, you know, plus 75 and 69 out here and 23 Celsius and 30 and 31. You see, when you're living in that environment, where at Christmas time, everything and everyone is shut up and shut in because you don't want to go because it's cold out there, that's when those times when we at home at Christmas time, for instance, during Christmas time, people went and brought marrow, or they went to the beach and brought sand, but they didn't go as individuals, they went in groups.
Yes.
They had the children who had their little bucket to carry with a little spade, and you had the adults who carried the big container on their head, and they walked as a group. And so it was a group activity, not only for the nuclear family, but for the extended family.
Yeah.
Which is something
it was a togetherness. Yeah.
That's right.
And what I want to say about, you know, those times we had less money to spend.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
But we got more for our buck, though.
Yeah.
We got a lot more for our money.
Well, yes, we had value. We had more value, yeah.
And those days we were interdependent. But today we are independent.
We think we're independent because back in those days,
but that's how you see it. You see,
a loaf of bread or a sweet bread would feed a whole community. Today, got 5 and 10 and 15 and 20 loaves of bread or sweet bread, but guess what? Only 2 people are eating.
That's correct.
Yeah. Well, I tell you one thing. I tell you one thing that I saw when I was a child growing up. There were families I know with 10 and 12 children.
Mm-hmm.
You hear me? One mother, one father with 10 children. And they never went to sleep hungry.
That's right.
Never.
And if you pass there, that mother could offer you something.
That's right.
And today, you have 2 children, and you're going to welfare and asking for a meal.
That's right.
So I remember, you know, I talked today so much about my mother blessing and she giving. Now, I used to be angry when my mother gave. I can tell you that as a child, I didn't understand, because just as your mother take the pot off the fire and she go to share food, the neighbor comes across with her 2 children and she started to talk, right. And now she has to share that food from that neighbor, and you feel now you're getting less. You know, you're angry about it because why she have to come over now? You know, but
I mean,
you never got any less. In some
no, but that's what I'm saying. George, I mean, I came up through those days too, and George, you used to feel good. As a matter of fact, it became so contagious. You saw your mom doing it that you grew to understand that this, so that if you saw your friend, you say, mommy, my friend so-and-so, saying, yeah, I can give him some of my food.
Of course,
yes.
You felt good doing that,
exactly.
you know? Yeah, you felt good doing that because
But this,
we learn by example. And your mom did it, and you felt like that's what should be done, and you were happy that you didn't say, well, he gonna come and eat my food. No, you didn't. Because I can't understand, the food used to be stretching. I mean, we never went to sleep hungry, and then there were a lot of things from the earth that you may eat to, you know.
well, I could tell you
what
for
we
that.
call grung provisions.
Provision, yes.
Yeah, you know. I remember you pass by, you pass through a road that means, in those days, you didn't have the road well done, like now somewhere, what we call little avenues and things, so. And you smell yellow bananas. And you run back and say, somebody would come by my mom and say, Miss Kelman, I smell bananas out there. She would say, well, go in and see if it is a bunch. If it's yellow, bring it and let me give you some.
That's right.
No, you go in there, you go through the cans, which will be right there, sir, and you would find a bunch of bananas. A lovely bunch of bananas with a number of hands and what on it. Yellow, and then the children would come with it and bring it in. And then she would say, well, this for you, and thing, and you know that we never sold them?
Nope.
No.
You never sold those things?
No, you never sold those things because I remember.
You tell your children, come and get some of the bananas. You know, because, Mark, when those things begin to ripen and you don't use them, they're spoiled.
That's it.
Spoiled, yeah. The disintegrate. You know, as a child, when the Christmas time come up, if you mine, when you mine, you will probably mine pigs, so you mine a turkey. You kill a pig and you probably give a close neighbor a piece. You probably have the fowl cock, some chickens mining up. He will take a chicken, you come and you get that chicken, you know, and that kind of spirited kind of love that people had for one another, that the Christmas was something that they looked for, and they used to give it a joy, eh? That's the thing about it. They never give chicken, oh God, I have to give you this big chicken, I don't understand why I have to do this. It was a joy. That's the thing about it. They give it a joy.
People shared.
Right.
You know? I remember the little boy going to the early morning service with my dad. And we lived a good 3 miles away from where the church was, the church building. And when you leave the church building on morning, somebody is inviting by them. And that the person is inviting by them. When I get home, I am so full that I see mine there, but you know it is Christmas, so you don't eat what you want, you eat what you see. I still have to eat something home.
That's right.
But people, everybody come in, you know, come and have thing. And that was on Christmas time. What I find out that during the year, they may not have had the amount of things like now, but the spirit of giving and offering still went on in those days.
Throughout the year.
Yeah, throughout the year, people would give certain things. Give to off you this, give you that. But that died after a certain time.
Yeah, and that is what I want to ask. There's a question I want to throw, or that is the question I want to throw out now. What is the cause? What is the reason for it? Today we see children with so much things that we didn't have. They have the Xbox, they have the PlayStation, they have all these games and all these fancy toys. And we see an effort in parents today to give children things that we didn't have. And so much effort goes into give them a life that you didn't have. And you know what? Within that, they're doing all of that, they leave out good manners and training.
I think that's the thing. For instance, I remember in London, and one of the problems that we encountered, this would be back in the 60s and 70s, we encountered a problem where we had parents, you know, the old two family parent, But both of these two parents were out working. So we then developed, we had the new cliche that, the latchkey kid, where these kids came home, they had the bicycle, and they had the television, and so these kids now lived in a world of their own. So they had no parental guidance, no parental supervision. There was hardly any contact. The only contact with these children and the parents was, Daddy, I want, Mommy, I want, give me this, give me that.
That's right.
And that's all you had. And so what happened was, we then encountered for the first time, right on the heels of the teenager, we now encountered the delinquent. And so juvenile delinquency became a word in our vocabulary. And this delinquency was actually induced by the society itself. So that children now were raised, whereas once upon a time, you'd come home from school and Mommy was home. And when Daddy came home, we all sat at the table and had supper. Next morning, you had breakfast. And especially on weekends, Sunday meals and things like that, or Sabbath meals. But the family always had time. The children had chores to do. You had to go carry out the goat and the cow and the sheep. And you had to feed them and clean the pig pen and whatnot on weekends and all these things. You had these things to do. You still had to do your homework and whatnot.
We have a call.
Good evening.
Good evening to you, caller. Yeah, good evening to you, caller.
Hi, my name is David.
Pardon the name?
David.
Did you get your name? Oh, David. Welcome, David. Welcome to ccvradio. Thanks for getting in the program.
Okay. Just give me a sec.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Good evening to you.
Yeah, my name is Dave. I've been listening for quite some time now, and I want to take up, John, a little bit on the money spending that we don't have. No, the way I see things in terms of Christmas is, I spend money at the end of the year as a kind of appreciation towards my family and maybe perhaps, one or two friends. And, when you see the expressions on your son's face, your daughter, your grandson, your wife, and the togetherness, at the end of the year, after that year had passed and you had worked so hard and, everyone comes together at this special time of year. Although we know that it is a pagan festival, I kind of somewhat see past that and more focus on the things that really matters to me the most. And that is my family. And knowing that they are there for me throughout the year. And then to, spend some of what I have earned and see the smile, the joyous times. You sit around at the table at Christmas morning and, you open gifts, you sit down, you have your breakfast, you discuss, things where the family is concerned. And to see that togetherness, that is something that warms my heart.